What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Not Entertainment Podcast, your home for entertainment, media, and culture. I'm your host, Gentz, and on today's episode, I'll be giving my personal opinion on IGN's reputation and influence in 2019. Now, I have to be completely honest on this episode. I'll probably get sued or I'll get a lot of backlash and hate for this episode, but I'll try to be as fair and honest in regards to my personal experiences as I can be. As far as IGN, I think personally I've been using IGN for probably the last 10 years. I have not been following them since they arrived on the scene in 1996 and following them religiously. In my upbringings of the gaming world, gaming news outlets and media formats, I kind of arrived late to the scene because I was in tune with XPlay, Adam Susser on Tech TV and G4 and Morgan Webb. And it wasn't until their show was kind of like on the outs of the changeover from Tech TV to G4, and then they got more zany with Attack of the Show, and then that kind of became the flagship versus XPlay. And around that time was where I started to fall off because I couldn't make that transition from XPlay over to Attack of the Show. So around that time, I started looking for another outlet to get the information and news I was looking for from gaming studios and from publishers and different enterprises that were in the general market. That's when I kind of discovered IGN. So at that time, I didn't really know how to describe IGN. I didn't really know how to describe what they were providing me at that time. I would say as a company, they were an aggregate for information, which was great for me because, I like the convenience. I didn't prefer having to go to multiple sources for information. I like just having one place that I could go to receive all the information that I needed around games and media in general, and staying up to date on what the latest news and rumors were at that time, and kind of filling the void that XPlay had left at that period of time in my personal experience. So how would I describe IGN? I thought, this is going back to me as my first introduction to them as a platform, I thought that they were an aggregate for information and news. I thought they were relatively unbiased at the time. This is probably 2003, 2004, 2005. I thought they were great for kind of getting in and out. Like if you just wanted to get quick update on news and snippets and rumors and developing news, it was like a great spot to just check in for a few minutes and then check out, and then you can kind of run with that information that you saw, talk to your friends really quickly and see what they saw, and then confirm or deny your own rumors, and start conversations with your friends and so on and so forth. So here we are in 2019, and I guess I kind of still view them as a hub for information, but I don't think they're really the one-stop shop anymore for information. I don't feel like they get the latest information. I think they've tried too hard to become a gaming news network, and I think in their pursuit of attaining that kind of status or separating themselves in that marketing scheme, they've abandoned what made their personal platform distinguished. So here's where I have beef with IGN, right? Going back to where I was to the early 2000s to 2005-ish, 2006-ish, IGN is the one-stop shop for news and information about games and gaming news and rumors and all that kind of stuff. Fast forwarding to 2019, I don't feel like they have the most relevant information anymore. Typically, when I would visit IGN, I was looking for news and information. I was looking for trailers and previews. I was looking for reviews on forums, wikis, and walkthrough guides. Occasionally, some of their podcasts and individual specials that they would host on their shows. And over time, I just find myself also visiting other websites and outlets for information. GameSpot, Games Radar, PC Gamer, Game Informer, PlayStation Access, Metacritic. You have a host and bevy of professional streamers on YouTube and Twitch. And then you got the infamous Reddit leaks and forums that appear whenever there's some, blockbuster AAA title game that's on the horizon. So I think for me personally, what happened is that I started to lose trust in IGN's content and their content creators. I think what I enjoyed so much about XPlay was that every day that I tuned in to XPlay at whatever airtime it was, every day from Monday to Friday, I knew I was always going to see Adam Slusser and Morgan Webb. I knew I was always going to see their faces. I was always going to get their opinions. I knew what to expect, and it worked. I didn't always know what topics they were going to cover. I didn't always know if they had news that they were going to highlight during their programs. I didn't always know what reviews they were going to feature on the shows, but I knew that I was going to have their opinions, and I was always going to have their faces to look forward to every single day, and then I can make my own determinations moving forward. I would say that IGN has kind of struggled over the years, and they've had a lot of turnover with their, I would say, quote unquote, faces of their organization, faces of their content shows and podcasts. I would say over the last 5 or 6 years, I won't get into names. I won't get into, supposed rumors about why people left and why people quit or whatever the case might be. But for the most part, people kind of left and did their own ventures. Nobody had anything negative to say. Nobody had anything bad to say about the organization, IGN, in personal or the company or the experiences that they had, the opportunities that were provided. But they felt it was time to kind of move forward. And this is where I am myself now. I don't feel like IGN has a brand. I don't feel like IGN has consistent presence. I don't think they have a face of their organization. I don't think they have reliable content or features that consumers look forward to on a day-to-day basis or even on a weekly or monthly basis. I feel that a lot of times they kind of create content just for content's sake. I feel that and this is just me talking. I don't have any facts to back this up, but I think they have a lot of freelance writers and reporters coming in and generating content for their site. I think their general philosophy on work and production at this point is more content is better than less content. I think they always want to rush to be the first to report things in traditional journalism nowadays, where people report things first in order to generate more traffic to their websites and to skirt the avalanche of disruption that Twitter causes when Joe Schmo reports on breaking news on Twitter, or TMZ reports on news that's happening immediately, and they get the inside scoop before traditional media outlets and news companies get that information. I feel like IGN is in that same boat, where they just generate content just to have new content to feature on their newsfeed and on their website, without that content being necessarily, how do I describe this, worthwhile, breaking new grounds, or providing new information than what's already assumed by consumers at this point. I feel that they don't really have a vetting process. They don't really have any patience with the publishing of their content. They rather publish content that may be already established in the media outlets or their competitors. They rather release information and news that's already known within the community that it relates to, rather than skipping a new publication for the day. They rather release something that doesn't really offer anything new of value to consumers than not releasing anything for that day. I would say over time, by this practice, their influence and their purpose and value has diminished over time. Now, obviously, I don't have their stock revenue in front of me. I don't have their profit over time in front of me. But personally, within myself and within my personal networks, I would say that people in my circle don't go to IGN for firsthand or secondhand, third-hand information. A lot of times when they hear information coming from IGN, they don't necessarily trust it now. So this is a new phenomenon where you used to have a one-stop shop for information and you could trust it at face value. But now you have information that you receive from this network that you feel is motivated or directly influenced by a partnership or directly influenced by funding or revenue by another company or another party and so on and so forth. Now, given all this, and I really don't want to get into it because, again, I don't want this to be a I hate IGN episode, but given my personal, I guess, outlook on the company and the network in itself, I feel that I can't critique it without providing some options for the network to obviously succeed in the future or some things they can do to change moving forward. Me personally, I think that if, let's just say, we call IGN a video gaming network hub or a video gaming news channel, let's say we use any one of those two titles, and obviously we're going to still lump in their work that they do to host promotional discounts and deals on equipment and gaming and yada yada yada. We're gonna still lump in their reviews on movies and TV shows and kind of all that extra peripheral entertainment media that they've over the last couple of years they've started to lump under their umbrella of gaming network news, right? Do I think their website is still the best medium for them to present themselves? Immediately, I would say no. I can't remember exactly when they made the new update to their website, but I want to say it was in the last 5 years. Ever since they've made that change to their website, I find my time that much more limited on their website. I don't know if it's just my rinky-dink computer, but whenever I go to IGN's website, the first thing that comes to me is their privacy statement, and then I get a flood of videos or clips of some random podcast, some random stream that's going on right now, and then like a random assortment of highlights that they feel deserve to be at the top of the page, whether that's being paid for by a company or they think it's really important, or that was just the latest information that was published on their site and that's why it's being featured at the top. I just feel like it's way too much information to be received on a home page, and it freezes my computer up, freezes my browser up. I can't navigate things, and then like as soon as I'm in that situation, every day I think I'm going to experience something different. And every time I get there and experience a thing, I'm like, why did I visit their website in the first place? Maybe I get one scroll or half a scroll down the page just to see like a title of something to make me leave their page and go search somewhere else for that same information. I feel like a lot of times when I go to them, specifically for me and my usage, I go to them for reviews more than anything else nowadays. And even when I'm expecting a review for a game that's coming out or that they got access to before mass media or before consumers or streamers get access to these demos or early access video games, I find that my time is much more valued looking for that information on YouTube, on their individual YouTube page, than trying to go to their website and find the review for the specific thing. I just find that the website is too clunky. I can't access the information directly. I can't navigate to what I want to. Again, this could just be me having stupid idiot old PC issues, or this could just be because of all the pop-ups and ads and information that's being thrown, videos, streams on the website that's trying to grab your attention immediately and bring you in to look at something that you may or may not be interested in. I find that if it was just static content that people can peruse and find interest in or not and navigate to the information that they're looking for, that would be much, much easier. That's how it was in the past before they made this update to the website. And I don't really know why they decided to make this shift. So again, their YouTube page I find much more useful. Now, for me, when I go to their site, I'm looking for reviews. I'm looking for early previews, early reviews on the content that they have on their page. Now, even when I'm listening or viewing this content, I still have some issue with what they're producing. This may not entirely be because of whoever's narrating the review or whoever's narrating the content. Sometimes they have one person write the review for the content and have someone else do the voiceover for that review of the game with the video in the background. Sometimes it might not be the same person writing the content that's reading the review, which is kind of, it doesn't make sense to me, other than if there's like production issues where someone's can't be in the studio to record it themselves, or because there's just too much of a time crunch, or somebody else is working on another project and to bring somebody else in to narrate it. It just seems weird to me, and it disassociation with the person that has digested the content themselves and the person that's just kind of freestyling or word for word reading off a paper what that other person experienced. It's hard to get an idea of the true sense of what the person experienced, or what their ideas and true thoughts were of any content, whether it's a movie review or video game review or anything in between. It's really hard to get a sense of what they're trying to say. Now, kind of continuing with this thought, I also feel that over time, IGN, and this could just be because content is so much more prevalent, it comes out much more frequently. They might not have, as far as I know, they only have a staff of maybe like 250 people. So granted, I assume that not all 250 members of their staff are reviewing content or editing, previewing, doing demos, all that kind of stuff. I don't assume 100% of their staff is working on that kind of stuff. Now, that taken into account, I still feel that they don't necessarily have the people that should be reviewing content of a certain genre reviewing that content. So what do I mean? For example, I don't think a content creator for IGN that knows the ins and outs of basketball and knows the ins and outs of all the previous installments of NBA Live or NBA 2K is the same person that's doing a review of the latest game coming out of that year, be it NBA 2K or NBA Live, regardless of what your preference is. I don't think that a person that has the wealth of knowledge about those franchises and their history and their rivalry and just the sport of basketball in general, I don't think that person that you would have in mind is reviewing that game, be it writing the review or narrating the review. I don't think it's the same person. And the same thing with some role-playing games, right? If there's a person that's unfamiliar with JRPGs or just role-playing games in general, I find that somebody that has no real familiarity with the genre, be it a RPG or JRPG, and is kind of reviewing a game that's in the same vein as that, they're the person that's providing their input on that kind of game. And it's like, if you don't have a grasp or a wealth of knowledge on that genre itself, it's hard for me to believe you as someone that's giving their valid opinion and valid review of a game that's of that genre. It's hard for me to trust what you're saying at face value if I already don't trust your credentials for understanding the genre and the medium in of itself. You know what I'm saying? For me, not seeing your face, for me not knowing who you are, for me not understanding your likes and dislikes or preferences or experiences as a video gamer, me being a fellow video gamer, if I hear you talking about a game that I feel from your understanding of the genre, from your understanding that you're giving via your review, it's hard for me to believe what you're saying as credible. And as such, people have this movement of ignoring the content or ignoring the reviews of IGN because they feel that there's a disassociation between the people that are reviewing the games and the people that are coming to see the reviews of the game. This is where there's an opportunity for other networks to fill in the void of authenticity and valued criticism of a genre. People that put their face out there, put their voice out there, explain what their references are for giving the review of whatever game it is, be it even if they're saying that they're a newcomer to the genre. Hey, I'm a newcomer to the genre. I just tried this JRPG out and I don't know too much about the genre, but I had a great time, and this is why. Here's some things that I also did not like, and yada, yada, yada. even that is taking much more of a leap than somebody that's describing a game that they have no idea about and they're not being honest with themselves about, and they're just they're trying to add gravity to what they're saying, but they really don't have any experience or wealth of knowledge of what they're saying, or vice versa, where there's somebody that has a wealth of knowledge about another genre, but they're critiquing a different game that they have no knowledge about. You really need to have a dedicated staff and review board or whatever you want, forum, I don't know what you want to call it. You need to have dedicated people that know what they're talking about a specific genre, to be the ones that are the forefront of your reviews for XYZ game. Now, granted, that might be much easier said than done, but if you want to reestablish your credentials or reestablish your value as a network that's trusted on face value, I think this is the necessary steps that you need to take. So again, this is the state of IGN in 2019, in my opinion, in my circle of immediate friends. And it's so crazy because in the late 1990s or early 2000s, we really wouldn't be having this conversation. IGN would still be the forefront for information, just because this shift happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know if it's a correlation between the market shift and usefulness of other mediums that in 2019 are no longer useful. So what are you talking about? For those that are, let's see, 24 and up, how many of you remember going to video stores or gaming stores or whatever it was and buying a strategy guide? How many of you remember having a Nintendo Game Boy and buying a Game Shark for your Game Boy or for your Nintendo 64, so you can get access to cheats, or so you can get extra games, or so you can do little fun things? It's like, it's been so long. It's like, when's the last time you heard, let's say in the last 10 years, that there was a cheat code for a video game you played? Like, it's probably unheard of. When's the last time you heard anybody buying a strategy guide for a video game? That market and that time period of cheat codes and strategy guides and doing fun things or having all the knowledge about whatever particular game at that time has faded away. And in this process, there's been this revolution of internet media and internet journalism, in the same vein as traditional journalism, where everything was in print, but then everything moved to online. So now anybody with a phone can be quote unquote a journalist, where they record an event happening and then the major news network buys their rights to that video and then they feature it on TV. So like, we weren't there, we didn't know about this, but because we're a major network, we're still posting this information. But that information came from somebody that has no interest or wouldn't consider themselves a journalist, because there's this transition in media where everything came from the mouths of people that knew what they were talking about, or the people that were educated and credentialed in the medium that knew what they were talking about. Because now that everybody has access to a phone, everybody has access to leaks, everybody has access to social media to air their expressions and their thoughts, everybody can throw their hat in having an opinion. Everybody can throw their hat about knowing more than another poster or another network, and yada yada yada. And this is kind of like where we are. So I really don't know what to do to attribute the change in the presentation of content to IGN. I don't know if it's kind of like just a changing of the guard, where they went from having a dedicated staff that knew what they were talking about and they could rely on to review such and such amounts of games a year, or write reviews for such and such amount of games in a period of a month. And then all of a sudden there was way more content for them to manage and deal with than that one person can handle. And then they needed more people, whether or not they had experience in these mediums or not. And they're just trying to stay afloat with content. And now they're just trying to get stuff out, where there used to be an emphasis on accuracy. There used to be an emphasis on getting direct information from organizations, or establishing a rapport with publisher or company where you can get those one-on-one conversations and interviews in company. Where now I would argue that even developers and publishers are turning away from these traditional internet media outlets. I think Twitch in itself has probably, if not permanently changed this medium for gaming information and news. How many times have you been on Twitch waiting to get new information about a video game and it wasn't GameSpot, or it wasn't IGN, or it wasn't PlayStation Access, or it wasn't whoever it was? It was the developer themselves, the publisher themselves, the company themselves hosting a stream on Twitch with the people that built the game, talking about the game, and we're eating it all up because these are the people that have the answers. These are the people that know what's really going on in the organizations. Like, why are we going to pay attention to a news organization that's getting an email from the publisher about what's going on when we have a direct line to the publisher and companies and workers on their individual Twitch channel? And I think the gaming and publishers, they're catching on to this. It's like, why are we going to you to middle manage our news and information when we can just do it ourselves via Twitch and YouTube? Me personally, I've subscribed to gaming studios YouTube pages, their Twitch pages, because I just don't want to miss information and I don't want to assume information. So whenever I see something that's coming out or that they're teasing or premiering, I want it directly from them because they're going to have the firsthand information. They're going to know about the product that they're trying to sell me more so than a third-party news network will. Now, there's a flip side to this because as the people that are providing the information for their product via Twitch or YouTube or whatever it is, now we don't have that filter to disseminate what's propaganda, what's promotion, what's advertisement, and what's actual facts and what's actual information that's to be held on and retained by consumers. What's the information that's going to make consumers feel better about buying the product or get excited about the product? As Twitch and YouTube for developers and content creators and publishers gets more popular, we're going to lose the filter of internet media third parties that are disseminating this information. Publisher A says this is going to be the greatest RPG ever. The third party internet media outlet says this game is going to be on par with XYZ. Here's what you can expect. Versus the publisher or developer themselves, shooting for the stars and giving all these grandiose statements about the game and what they're going to produce and what they're going to provide consumers. But then on release day, it's buggy, it's messy, they don't deliver on their promises, and then we got sucked in for $60 or $70 or $100, whatever the case is. As much as IGN and other networks and third parties and YouTubers are filters for information from these developers and companies, we still have to be on our toes, even from the developers and companies themselves, because they're trying to sell us a product. They're not unbiased in this distribution of information. They're trying to entice us enough to buy a product without reading a review, without reading to any feedback, without a NDA contract. They want to get us a product that we're not entirely sure of and to make sure that we're going to buy it. So they make the juiciest trailers, they get the best soundtracks they can, formulate just to give us the direction and give us the information that we need to send in our pre-orders and send in our information so that we can buy those products and consume those products as fast as possible without hearing from these networks that might interrupt or give us a reason to pause, reconsider us purchasing these games right out. Now, whether or not that's novel or misleading is not for me to debate. It's for the companies and news outlets to debate over, because those are their dollars and our dollars. So they got to hash that out. And then we ultimately at the end of that have to decide where we're going to put our dollars. But having said all of that, I really don't want to make this a bashing of IGN, whether or not you agree or disagree. I really don't want that to be the takeaways of this conversation. What I want it to be about is what we can do moving forward, what IGN can do moving forward. In my opinion, what I think they should do is, which sounds ridiculous, I think they should ditch their website as it is completely. Now, Instead of their website, I think they should run a daily show every day on Twitch. Why? Now, maybe this is just me and what worked for me back in the early 90s with XPlay again and G4 and Tech TV and all that stuff. Maybe that's just my callback to what worked for me and, wanting to see something like that in the modern times. But realistically, and this is probably $1 million idea, I don't know why I'm giving this to YouTube, but I'm gonna just say it. There needs to be a Sports Center equivalent for gaming and entertainment. Now, maybe this channel could be that moving forward. I don't know about that right now, but I think IGN has the tools necessary to create that format. They might not have the personalities and content creators for that kind of environment, but I think they have the resources available to at least get the ball rolling. Could you imagine Monday through Friday, you had a recap of all the news, all the rumors, all the previews, all the demos, all the whatever it was for that day available to you on Twitch Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., let's say, or 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Anything that came in via the news, whatever it was, you had bevy of different content creators or personalities giving you information from the day before, from the day of, and anything that was breaking on the news on Twitch. And you can listen to that in the background while you're at work. You can pay attention to whatever. You can watch it all day. You can have your way with the content being recorded. You can subscribe for free. You can watch back old episodes. I think this is where these kind of networks and information providers will succeed, because if they can provide consumers with reliable content on a daily basis, provide an outlet to put faces and names attached to content, and establish credibility amongst consumers on a platform that is probably more popular than their own website right now, I think that's where they'll see success. Going back to my personal beef, the people reviewing games are not the people that are providing the reviews for, are the people that should be providing those reviews. If there were segments where they can have so-and-so that's giving a review on such and such game, and there's a segment on this quote unquote Sports Center IGN Twitch channel, they can feature Joe Schmo reviewing Joe Schmo RPG. They can have their face and their name up there. They can go through specifically what their issues were with the game, what problems they have with the game, what bugs they experienced with the game. And they can have a direct line to other consumers to say, hey, I noticed you didn't bring this up. Is this a problem in the game? Hey, what did you like about this game in comparison to the previous game? Hey, if I bought such and such game, will I like this game? You have a direct line to the person that played the game. You have a direct line to the person that's airing their concerns, be you a publisher or be you a developer, be you just the person that reviewed the game. You now have a new way to establish reliability and a connection with the audience. Be the audience agree with you or not, you now have a platform to establish yourself as a person, to get a name and face, get recognition, and get feedback from those consumers that will potentially be buying those games. And that's where I think the perfect marriage is for future online internet gaming networks, entertainment hubs, and so on and so forth. But that's the end for this episode. I want to hear you guys' feedback. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.